What's up and good morning, guys. Welcome back to another video. This is part 2 and hopefully the final video of transforming this ginormous fireplace over here at Rhino Ranch. Now in the last video we left off of like pulling 5 rocks off, putting the TV mount up and putting 5 rocks back on. If you guys watched that video, you know there was a lot more to it than that, but it's essentially that simple. So while we wait for Papa Rhino to show up today to finish putting in the last couple of pieces of stone, we've got Abel starting to get everything masked off because we're going to be whitewashing this entire fireplace. And if you guys did not watch the first video, we have again, a pretty giant 3-sided stone fireplace, and I'm not a fan of it. While it does fit the look of the house is going to change, which means this entire thing is gonna change at some point. However, in the meantime, I just can't keep staring at this thing. So we're gonna try to whitewash it. I'm not sure how it's gonna go. I've never whitewashed anything. There's multiple methods to whitewash things. We're gonna pick what I think is gonna be the simplest. It might not look the best, but maybe. If you look at this stone, it is extremely textured and porous. Like, this stuff is bad. Some of these pieces look just like coral or coral reef. So typically to whitewash, or when people whitewash, they're doing like smoother stuff like this, right? So they'll come in with a rag and they'll wipe every stone clean. And they also usually are doing it on a much smaller scale, but we don't have that luxury. This stuff is super, super textured. The other thing is typically stone, well, it depends, I guess, but most of the whitewash jobs I've seen are on stone that is grouted. And what I mean by that is, if you look right here, you can see where they came in with some mortar and they filled in a bunch of the joints. They did it here because this is obviously a ledge for a built-in. And pardon me for being like a weird color and so dark back here, but this is just a dark hallway and all we have is this one single little light. Cannot wait to change all of that. So I contemplated grouting this first. And as you guys can see, there is a lot of joints that we would be coming in. We'd be using a blow bag, which is basically like a cake decorator's piping bag. And we would have to come in and by hand fill in every single joint and then come back in and we clean it out. Basically, we use either a wire brush or like a foxtail brush. But again, that is a momentous task. But the main reason I'm not gonna do that is because this is all getting torn out at some point. So why spend a day or two grouting this entire thing, and then, you know, and honestly, that'll make it even harder to tear out later on. I don't know how this is gonna look whitewashed. I'm a little bit nervous because all the ones I've seen were grouted. They were smoother stone. It was all done by hand with paint brushes because the stone was so smooth. We're gonna spray this. It might look like crap. If it does, we can always change it. My original plan was to paint this black. I drove by a commercial building that had this exact stone on it and they painted it all black and it actually looked really sick. But I want to brighten this place up, not darken it up. So we're gonna try white. Now, while Abel is working on getting that masked, I am getting the TV set up, of course. You guys know, at least with my luck and probably some of your guys' luck, nothing ever just works right out of the box. This kit came with a bunch of hardware, obviously, as most TV mounts do, because you have such a variety of TVs, right? Thankfully, somebody standardized the VISA mounting system to where there's only so many dimensions that you can use when it comes to mounting a TV, but when it comes to the bolts that hold everything together, or the screws, I feel like that should be standardized. Anyway, this kit came with some longer ones in an M8. We got an M8 by 50, M8 by 35, but this TV, for as big as it is, actually uses M6 bolts, which are these skinnier boogers right here. And unfortunately, they only include M6 by 35, which once screwed in is really not long enough by the time you put the bracket on the outside here. So I had to get new hardware, not the end of the world. But then, because these have such deep pockets for the bolts to go in, they recommend using a spacer. Well, these spacers do not fit in this tiny little pocket. Using a diamond blade, just because that's what I have sitting right outside, and I'm having to kind of just hack away some of the plastic. You can see we've kind of squared up this thing to try to get it to fit inside of these tight holes. We will not be beat by some plastic. This is definitely one of those don't try this at home, kids. There we go. Round peg and a square hole. Now, you might see behind me, Papa Rhino has shown up. Abel is just finishing off masking the last little bits here. Now, I'm going to be using my HVLP sprayer that I got from Harbor Freight. This is the Avanti HVLP sprayer. That is this contraption right here. If you guys don't know, HVLP stands for high volume, low pressure, as opposed to like the standard airless sprayer that you've seen me use in previous videos when we painted the fence, a bunch of the guest house painting that we did. That's a lot of pressure, which makes a lot of overspray. Not that HVLP doesn't have overspray, but I believe we're gonna deal with less overspray. This is the HVLP gun. and you actually put all of your paint inside of this can, as opposed to the airless sprayer where you actually put a nozzle directly into your paint bucket and the sprayer sucks it out. We'll see. I'm not super HVLP sprayer experienced. I did the doors and stuff up at the guest house and it wasn't my best work. I gotta get a little more practice with this. However, the ideal place, if this is gonna look kind of funky, is here because there's just so many textures and so many layers, and like there's no real right or wrong way to whitewash this stuff. We're gonna give this a shot, but for now, these guys are gonna get this doctored up and finished. I gotta run and grab some paint, so we'll see you in a second. Alrighty, so Pavarano has gone ahead and just kind of smoothed out this little back piece where the actual TV mount's gonna go. We're not gonna try to piece a bunch of little stones in there. It's just not worth it, especially considering this stuff's really thick, so we'd have to like make our own veneer out of it. But this stuff is also super dense. I mean, look at how solid that stone is though. There's just really no point. The TV's gonna hide it. You might see it a little bit if you're looking from the side, but it's not the end of the world. I have retrieved the paint. We've got, I think it's called A Bit of Sugar. It's not super pure white, but it's pretty white. I was kind of going back and forth between something more white, something that had a little like warmer tone to it. But I imagine once we start covering up the brown stone, like a little bit of the warmness of the stone's gonna come through. I'm not sure how far we're gonna take it. Some people whitewash and they like to see some of the browns coming through. Some people like completely just paint the entire thing white. I don't know till we start. I've never done it. I don't know what's gonna look good. Hopefully 2 gallons is enough. My plan is to water it down 50-50 with water. 50% paint, 50% water. That should basically make 4 gallons. The prep side on the back of the fireplace is all done. And when you're spraying, this is what takes the longest, is doing all the prep work as opposed to actually, you know, just using a brush. You don't have to mask off everything. You don't have to tape off everything. So there's always pros and cons. However, again, because this stone is so porous, I just think it would be absolutely miserable to try to brush all of this on. We'll take a little bit more time right now to mask everything off for spraying, but I think at the end of the day, it's gonna be quicker to do it this way than it ever would have been to try to do it by hand. So let's go get some paint mixed up. We're gonna turn on the HVLP sprayer. We're gonna come down to this end, we're gonna hook it up, and hopefully we have no leaks, but I noticed when I pulled this thing apart earlier, I didn't clean it out very well last time. All right, we are attached. So far, no leaks. Now I need to see if I remember how to use this thing. So you've got a lot of adjustments on an HVLP sprayer. Oh, no, leaks. Lots of leaks, okay. That's not good, it's not a good sign. Oh, no, more leaking, that's not good. We gotta figure out, there's a seal or something missing right now. All right, I feel like we had to start out with a bang, you know, just keep things a little bit exciting around here, but this fitting right here was loose, and I felt it when I was putting the cup back into it, but I was like, I don't know, I haven't used this thing in forever, maybe there's supposed to be a little bit of play in there, and there is not supposed to be play in there. So let's get everything hooked back up and go for round 2. It kind of screwed me though, because I didn't get a chance to wipe this off. So we got a nice, you know, detail right there, some really thick paint that has already kind of dried because this rock is kind of porous. It kind of just sucks up the paint, which means it's gonna dry quick. So a lot of people, they'll put it on and then kind of wipe it off. I don't know if that's what I want to do. I'm, again, like that, well, maybe we can wipe some of that off. Let's see. I guess we can kind of lightly wipe it off if we wanted to. And basically keep it from looking so much like it's just a solid white painted surface. Which I might want that, I don't know. This is all very new to me, but that rock looks kind of cool. The lighting sucks again, I'm sorry guys, but all right, let's mask up. Sprayer back on. Lesson learned, definitely try this outside. No more leaks, we're good to go. There's so many angles to try to get into, even with spraying it, because the stuff is just so jagged and so deep. See what happens if we hit it with a little sponge on this top portion here. It's looking pretty good. All right, we're committed at this point. So after spraying for a little bit, I think it's definitely something we want to come in and
wipe off a little bit to show a little bit of the natural color of the stone. That way it doesn't look too much just like a stark white wall. Again, if this isn't like perfect and doesn't turn out great, it's coming out at some point. I'm still getting used to dialing in the settings, so I was getting a little heavy in here. But if you see when I come face on with the wall, then I start to turn, all of these faces of the stone have not been hit yet because it's really hard to get like all the angles of the rock. And then the more you try to get little angles like that, the more you're putting white on the face, which makes it look more like painted versus just kind of a natural whitewash. It's taking a little bit of finagling. I guess we figured out on this side before we do it at the side that I stare at all the time when I'm watching TV. Look at this rock. This rock's kind of cool. Looks like it's got a bunch of barnacles on it. Y'all, well, we have one side done, and I'm looking on the camera right now. It probably looks a little yellower because of that yellow light right there than it actually is in person, but I definitely started too heavy over here. And I dialed in my settings a little bit and got lighter as I went, and started removing a little bit more as I went to give it more of like a, this is kind of white rock, natural tones to it versus this is just all the exact same color rock. So you'll see, you know, spots like right here. Again, hopefully this shows up on camera. I wiped a decent amount off, and I hope this looks good. The lighting sucks back here. It's very dark here. The sun's starting to go down a little bit outside, so I don't really have good lighting. I'm not gonna know until maybe daytime or when we get to the other side and I continue this technique. So far though, it is already making this hallway way brighter than it used to be. I mean, everything was this color when we started. It just looks so much brighter, and it'll look even better obviously once this plastic is down, and then you have like the contrast of all the built-ins versus before where the built-ins just match everything because it's brown on brown on brown on brown. Alrighty, y'all, well, she is completely whitewashed. In this lighting, it looks whiter than the other side for some reason, and I did the exact same technique, so shouldn't be any difference in technique, but look at this side. This side looks pretty good. Maybe I should have gone with a little warmer white. The other side looks a little warmer, but I think in the right daylight or the right lighting color, it's gonna look just like this side. Obviously, it was the same can of paint. In fact, I bought way too much paint, ended up only using like 1/4 of a gallon. I ended up with a lot of extra paint. If anybody out there wants to do this with this exact color, I got an extra gallon for you. Getting everything cleaned up, let's reveal one of these little niches. Thanks to Abel's great tape job there. Look at that. Definitely helps warm it up a little bit. I know we're trying to like make this house warm. It's the whole reason I wanted to expose the fireplace so I can use the fireplace to heat the house. And then I went and painted everything white and made the house feel a little bit colder, but it's gonna take a minute to probably grow on me. A lot of you guys would probably think it's a cardinal sin to paint over stone that looks like that. But again, it's getting torn out at some point. I just couldn't stand that stone anymore. Maybe I should have painted the entire thing black. I'll give it till tomorrow to grow on me. Not that I'm gonna change it because we're already committed at this point. HYPERLITE's little area right here turned out really, really nice though. There's a little bit of touch up I gotta do by hand, and I just saw on the GoPro screen. It actually looks gray on the GoPro screen, but it's not too gray in person. I think the lighting on this side gives you the best look at it there in terms of what my eye actually sees in person, but it's definitely a big change. Like I said, it's gonna take some growing on me. I don't know if I'm like super sold on this was the best move ever, but it was definitely time for a change. So I'm happy to have a little bit of change here. So tomorrow we're going to get the TV mounted, do all the little finishing touches, and yeah, hopefully the TV doesn't fall off the wall. But I'm feeling more confident now. With Paparana filling all of this in with Rapid set, the epoxy is set. I mean, I feel like we're gonna be pretty good, but we will find out tomorrow. Okay guys, a day has passed. I almost just tripped taking off my chanclas. Here's what she looks like in the daylight.
Dun, 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 dun. It definitely looks better in my opinion in the daytime. Now you're seeing a little bit more of the browns. I think I went way too heavy on the white, I will admit. I knew it wasn't gonna match a lot of stuff in the house. Definitely does not match the granite right there. It's a pretty bright white, and I toned it down a little bit from the original white that I was looking at. I don't have my little swatches, but I was gonna go with like a purer white, and I was like, nah, I should probably darken it up a little bit or go with a little warmer of a white. So this is a warmer white, and it's still pretty bright white. Whites are like super hard to pick. Look at the ceiling. I thought that was the super bright white, but you can see it compared to this, like that looks warmer than that. So if I were to do this again, I would not use a bit of sugar or a little bit of sugar or booger sugar or whatever the heck that color was called. I still have to touch up this trim piece. I sprayed it because I totally spaced out on the fact that I had a 50-50 water paint mixture, so it doesn't look that great right there. So we'll touch that up later. And I think I'll actually put that back to brown because I think a little contrast will be good. Now this side, look at this spot, looks pretty good right here. It's just all on the lighting, right? Like this spot looks better. And again, it's more broken up because of the wood. So I think once we get the TV hung here in a second, it's gonna look better because it'll be broken up by this big giant black TV right there. And then obviously once we put some decorations and stuff around, it's gonna break it up, right? I don't regret doing it. I just feel like I should have done it lighter. But you saw what I was battling up against. It started to get really dark in here, and that one single light only does so much and it's kind of playing tricks on my eyes. But let's get this TV hung. Let's get the mount put on. We cleaned this up. I think I'm gonna leave this gray. I don't wanna paint this white. I think it kind of looks cool. We got some like Flintstones vibes going on here with a little bit of the bare concrete. Looks like a big rock back there. We've got our extension cord. Unfortunately, they only had a 12-footer. An 8 would have been perfect. It was either 12 or 6, and 6 was just a hair too short. Our epoxied in all thread is super, super strong now. So I'm pretty confident in the TV being held up. I gotta clean these threads off though. They're a little bit boogered up with some mud. All right, so we're gonna get the mount put up. I don't remember which way was up, which way was down. I don't think it matters, but yeah. Now you guys can see just how tight the mount is going in, which is a good thing. But a lot of this weight down here is sitting on this stone, which, well, a couple of stones. And then Papa Rhino put this shelf in right here out of rapid set concrete. So some of the weight is getting carried by some of the stones as well as the epoxy, which, you know, gives me a lot more faith in it holding the TV. So we'll get our washers put on and tighten down these nuts. Because again, remember the wall's kind of doing some weird stuff. And Papa Rhino got most of it out, but it's not as straight as I would like. So we're gonna put a nut on the back side of this threaded rod, and that'll hold this out. And then this will allow us to adjust the tension that we want as well. Look at that, guys. We got a pretty good guess there. I'm getting those right where I want them. I'll just bring those nuts out on the back side on this section, but we're tied up against the back nut, tied up against the back nut. So now we can actually tighten it, and we're not just floating with this gap back here. The good news is I'm feeling these tighten, and the all thread is not spinning, which means we are anchored in very good. Then we hang that right there. So we have a little bit of a problem. There's a plate right here that hooks into the bottom little rail system here, and then you tighten that down. All of the weight is on this top piece, but that basically keeps the TV from wanting to lift off that way. But because we have this all thread sticking out, it's not letting that plate get behind there to tighten down and clamp and grab this lower rail. So I'm gonna try to get in with a carbide blade. I'm really just gonna be able to come in at it straight this way and try to get this knocked down a little bit so that that bottom section will grab. Worst case scenario, maybe we can just cut a little notch out of this thing. Well, that worked, y'all. We got it all remedied. We have the motion mount portion on. Now the fun part, 2 people trying to put this TV on where this thing's gonna be wanting to move around. Here goes nothing. I think we're solid though. I put a decent amount of weight on this thing and she don't move at all. Here goes nothing. Let's try and put the TV on. I'm not gonna take the feet off because the TV's so big, I don't really have a spot to lay it down to pull the feet off. So I'm gonna hang it here and then we'll pull the legs of the TV off.
Nel po' di stelle, sì.
Oh, Más chico y más heavy.
Pero no quítale este de... Esto de...
Lero, ponle ahí arriba. ¿Bien? Ese, más abajo es este. Posible. Está, Evo. Picare, Evo.
Está...
¿No mueve?
No.
So I was looking at the legs on this TV mount or on the feet, and there's 0 screws on this thing. Like, it's just got a bunch of little nubs for some reason. I'm like, man, how the heck do you take this thing off? Well, thankfully, because I left the tag on the TV, which drives a lot of you guys insane, I was able to Google it because I knew what model number it was. I mean, I probably could have just looked on the back, but apparently these just pop out. You just literally pull them out. Look at that, it's fácil label. Man. Which is funny because we started to yank on them a little bit and the whole TV tilted because we hadn't really tightened the tilt function on this thing, but we are good to go now. Alrighty, with the TV up there, it is definitely looking better. And I gotta say, I'm glad we went with the 85-inch. I knew coming into this house, we would need something very large just to match the scale of the fireplace, and I think that is like the perfect size. I need anything smaller might look a little bit goofy. One thing is though, being up there now, you can see all of that glare on the TV, so we'll have to remedy that. But I do like it up there. I'm gonna have to get used to looking up a little bit. Sitting right here on this ledge, it was like the perfect viewing height, which is one of the other reasons I didn't really want to mount it up there, but it looks better. The house looks like we've actually moved in now instead of this thing just sitting right there like it's been for 3 years. I'm sure somebody's gonna mention it. I did paint over this outlet. That outlet is gonna get swapped out. It was a brown outlet. I'm swapping the actual outlet and the outlet cover because both were brown. But other than that, I mean, we do have this cord hanging down, but once I tuck that cord up there, you'll have no idea that we just ran the cord hidden in the joints of the stone. Alrighty, y'all. Everything is nice and finished up. There's that built-in exposed. Obviously, the 2 niches you saw. Oh man, everything is looking so good. I think now, seeing the TV up there, seeing a little bit of decorations on there. Obviously, it's not finished. We still got to put a few more things, but now I think it has grown to where I actually really do like it. And the TV sits a lot better than I thought it would. If you come from the side, I envisioned you would see a lot of like where that mount was and just kind of the gray rapid set that we put back there, but you really cannot see anything. It kind of worked out well that the stone sticks out so far and that we took it off because the mount is almost recessed behind the stone. I know there's a little bit of thickness to the TV, and the TV would actually go back a little further if some pieces of stone up there didn't stick out, but it actually tucks pretty dang nice. Whenever we go to remodel this entire thing, I'll probably build like a niche that the TV sits in, but then you're kind of limiting yourself on your TV. I don't know, we'll figure that out later. Again, hopefully the fire doesn't affect this. If it does, I've got an idea on building something down here to kind of protect the TV. I mean, it's looking really good. The cable management back there is awesome. Being that I have the DirecTV wireless cable boxes, they actually are RF remotes. So the remote doesn't actually have to have a direct light stream to the box. It's all RF. So I can tuck it way back up there, and I did it. It's just zip tied to one of the brackets back on the backside of the TV. And again, everything is super clean. I'm freaking stoked with it. So I can confidently say, I still gotta figure out what I'm doing with that strip of trim back there, but I can confidently say now, I do like this. I was very nervous this entire process all last night. I'm like, man, did I make a big old mistake? But it looks cool. Definitely does not go with the granite right there, but we'll worry about that later. Still got a little bit of cleaning up to do, but we are essentially done here. We've come a long way since she looked just like that. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not subscribed already, please click the subscribe button now that you do not miss out on any future content. And don't forget to give this video a like, hit a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out workforapparel.com because if there's anything you want in this life, you gotta be willing to work for it. You guys are the best. I'm out.
Damn.